What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Thanks for stopping by. The end of the year is vastly approaching, and therefore we have the Game Awards coming up. And with that, I wanted to talk about the Game of the Year. I want to talk about the nominees a bit, go over what was perhaps missing from the nominees list, and then discuss some of my favorite games of the year. This is always really fun to do. Look back at the games we finished and decide which games made the best impression. Please be sure to leave a comment below and let me know what your favorite games are and if you think anything was snubbed from the Game of the Year nominees. So without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, first we have 6 nominees, and the first game I want to talk about is The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. This game absolutely belongs in the Game of the Year conversation. It does a lot of really interesting things and builds on the foundation of Breath of the Wild, a game we all know and love. It doesn't just create a new story in the same world though, it adds so many new ways to interact with the game, from building and creating to traversal across the sky islands down to the ground level and deep down into the depths. Tears of the Kingdom is dripping with creativity and exploration. There's truly nothing like it, and therefore I definitely think that it belongs here. It should be in the conversation for the Game of the Year, and in my personal opinion, should definitely win. Now, will it win? That I don't know, but I do think Tears of the Kingdom was the most impressive game of the year to me. Next up on the nominees list, we have SpiderMan II, and this one is great, definitely belongs here as well. There are probably very few games over the last few years that have had their hooks in me quite like SpiderMan II did. There's just an incredible gameplay loop here that's truly hard to match in terms of quality storytelling, open world design and traversal, and just overall fun. I could spend hours and hours swinging around, fighting bad guys and picking up collectibles and come away from any gameplay session fully satisfied. The dynamic of switching between Peter and Miles was incredibly well executed, and the Venom storyline was incredibly intriguing. I was a bit skeptical of the whole we're playing with Peter, we're playing with Miles, and bouncing them back and forth between the two, but they absolutely delivered on this concept and made a truly amazing open world game. I was really hoping Spider-Man 2 would get the nomination, and I'm really glad it did. Next one we want to talk about is Balers Gate 3. This is a game like no other, and if there was a game on this list of nominees that I thought would get the win from the Game of the Year voters, it's probably this one. This game does so many interesting and creative things, and the way the game unfolds in this tree-like structure of outcomes based on what the player does or the decisions they make is completely unmatched and honestly, in my opinion, unfathomable. I have not finished Baldur's Gate 3 yet because I just started it, got several hours in, and felt like I barely scratched the surface, and I had to put it down for some other games, and this is one that I really need to jump back into. It's a massive time investment, and therefore it'll probably be a while before I get back to it. But based on the time I've spent with it so far, it definitely seems to be the most likely to get the nod. This is a very impressive game, and Larian Studios yet again delivers us another masterpiece. So Allan Wake 2 gets a nomination. This is one that I was hoping would get on there. I didn't know for sure if it would get on there, but it did. It ended up coming away with a nominee, and I'm glad. Another game this year that did something truly unique. 2023 is really quite full of unique gaming experiences, and Allan Wake 2 is definitely one of them. Do you like the idea of being a detective investigating gruesome crimes with underlying supernatural elements? Then this one is for you. The game throws you into things and makes a very dark first impression. The original Allan Wake had some underlying horror aesthetics to it, but the sequel really leans heavily into the horror aspects. Allan Wake 2 does some interesting things, not only with its storytelling and character development, but also with its combat. It's a ton of fun, and I should say it's an absolute graphical showcase for next-gen consoles. This game is stunning and is definitely Game of the Year material. Now, the next two on the list I want to talk about, I think could have likely been replaced with some other truly amazing games that released this year. And it's not to say that these games aren't particularly great, because they definitely are. But these two games I could have felt going either way in terms of whether they make it to the Game of the Year list or not. First up is Super Mario Wonder. This is, in my opinion, the best 2D Mario to come out in ages. Doing away with the new Super Mario series that became the staple for so many years was definitely the way to go. Wonder does a lot of really new and cool things. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it, and I'm still playing a ton of it. But I don't know that I would put it anywhere near the same level as the likes of Balers Gate 3 and Tears of the Kingdom that do things that truly move the needle in terms of what games can do and how players interact with games. Is Super Mario Wonder one of the best 2D platformers I've ever played? Yes, it is. But for me, there's games I played this year that I really would have liked to see on this list that did miss the mark. And like I said before, we will get to those in a sec. The last on the list of the nominees is Resident Evil 4 Remake. This is one of the best remakes in existence. Resident Evil 4 is one of the best third-person shooters ever made, and it shaped the genre to what it is today. I love everything about this game, and had this been the first time everyone played Resident Evil 4, we'd be having a different conversation. If it wasn't a game that was originally great several generations ago and then great again the several times it was re-released, then this should absolutely be on the nominees list for best games of 2023. Resident Evil 4 Remake takes what was already great and makes it look incredible and adds a ton of quality of life stuff to make it nearly perfect. But if we are looking at what Resident Evil 4 Remake does specifically, and not just Resident Evil 4 as the nominee here, then I think it's hard to put it in the Game of the Year conversation. And one of the all-time best years for games in history. Now, that's just my opinion. But now I want to take a moment to get into a few games I would have liked to see make the list. And one of those games is Final Fantasy 16. Now, Final Fantasy always does something new and interesting with each mainline release, and going into 16, I knew I was in for something special. While I'm not the hugest fan of the over-the-top action, combo-based combat system, I feel like it was super well executed, and the boss fights in Final Fantasy 16 were truly something to behold. There has never been anything like it. These were huge set pieces that felt like incredible moments, and I think from a production standpoint feel so polished. The mature themes and story combined with amazing characters and a new combat system that encourages creativity in the approach of players used to take down enemies make Final Fantasy 16 a Game of the Year contender in my opinion. I was so surprised to not see this on the list. The soundtrack is amazing, the writing is amazing, the boss fights were incredible, the graphical showcase of this game, it just hit so many high notes. So when I saw that Final Fantasy 16 wasn't on the list, I was quite disappointed. Next one I would have liked to see on the list is Octopath Traveler 2. This is a masterpiece, and I do feel like what it does with storytelling and mechanics give it a place in the Game of the Year conversation for sure. Octopath Traveler 2 is a triumph in the JRPG genre, seamlessly blending nostalgia with innovation, everything from its engaging storytelling, breathtaking visuals, strategic combat, immersive world, and enchanting soundtrack. I mean, this soundtrack is incredible. These things make it a must play for both fans of classic JRPGs and newcomers. It stands as a shining example of how to evolve a beloved franchise while staying true to its roots. It improved on everything the first game did in almost every conceivable way and made for one of the best experiences of the year. And the last game I would have liked to see on the list is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. This is one of the best Star Wars stories ever told across movies and games, and I think the fun, creativity, and customization make this a game that should be up there with the best of the best. The best aspect of this game is that you aren't starting as, a young Jedi just getting tasked with building up your powers, but rather an already established one that can be built into a force to be reckoned with, an absolute powerhouse. This makes the game a ton more fun, and I can't begin to describe how much fun I had with this game this year. It's a must play and deserves a nominee in my opinion. With all that said, the 6 games chosen for the Game of the Year nominations are all amazing games, and don't let this video mislead you into thinking they're not. I just think there were some games that made a bigger impact or fit better into the conversation. I really just can't wait to see what the Game Awards have in store for us this year. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. What do you think should have made it into the nominees? Do you think these 6 games chosen are the right ones? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, I'm out.